Hey, memers and streamers. Woo, I'm a crazy old man. Anyway, yeah, today's video is about kind of showing the actual consequences for doing stuff if you've got something like, long COVID or extended COVID or whatever the heck they call it, or, they've got so many names now. CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, and they flip those around, ME, CFS, CFS, ME. So many names, but it's all the same thing. Serious chronic or serious viral infection, or whatever kind of infection, or sometimes trauma of some kind, physical, that leads to something breaking in the body, and then leads to all this kind of crap. And so anyway, I had a doctor appointment last Friday, and it's currently Tuesday, and we're kind of hitting the peak of the hump, so to speak, of the payback. I just spent about 22 hours in bed with a very short period in between. In fact, here's a clip from earlier today when I tried to get this done earlier. Hey, memers and streamers, it's Frackin' here again. So I've just spent about 16 hours in bed, roughly, something like that. This is literally the story everywhere I go. I spent the last 2.5 years trying to find a doctor, any doctor, and we're back. So what you're looking at there was me earlier today. I had spent 16 hours in bed at that point. I tried for a few hours. I don't know. The sun was just coming up, and then it had just barely come up when I went back to bed. But so I was in bed for 16 hours. Yeah, 16. Then I got up, tried to do this, just couldn't. Went back to bed again for 6 or 8 hours. I can't remember. It added up to about 22 hours anyway. Almost 24 hours in bed. And I still feel like a bag of crap. Like I'm really not all here. And that's kind of what this last couple of years has been. It's why don't really see me posting gaming videos anymore. Once in a while I kind of half-ass something just to kind of, I'm not gone, I'm still here, But this reminds me of something else that I got thinking about. I had been fighting with the camera driver a little bit earlier too, and of course couldn't get more than about 30 seconds to a couple of minutes into a video before I was like, hey, memers and streams, and then the camera would freeze, and it's like, yeah, that's fun. Anyway, going through the clips to see whether I had actually gotten the whole video, it reminded me of something that people used to say to me years ago before, the people close to me finally kind of seen what this was all about. Every time they would see a little short glimpse of me during periods like this, they're just like, well, you're just drunk, or you're just, or maybe you didn't eat. That one's not very rare. The other, I'm sure at this point people, are probably trying to, claim that people like me are, it's just drugs. It's like, well, in order to have, drug or alcohol or, any of those kinds of problems, you need to have drug or alcohol in your system, right? And it's not what it is, right? It's why it looks the same now as it did 2 years ago, right? And it's why, it's not like I'm drinking 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, right? And it's not just me that people do this. This is a common theme. One of my closest friends in the world, I don't have very many of them, but this man has ended up becoming a close friend of mine, and partly because he's going through the same thing. When he was much younger, he got this before I did. But he was driving long-haul truck to the U.S. and from way up north, like Fort McMurray, I think, is where he picked up, and then he was going to Texas. So like a long drive, man. It's about as long as you can get, in civilization. And anyway, on his way back, he got food poisoning from one of the truck stops he'd eaten at. And yeah, he had to crawl on his hands and knees across 2 directions of traffic on the interstate. And they didn't phone an ambulance. They phoned the police because he's just drunk. Even though it was all kinds of gastrointestinal stuff and he was throwing up and, oh God, just horror. And then he ended up being flown back up in a Learjet to I think the U of A in Edmonton. But yeah, people said the same thing about him. It's like, phone the police, he's just drunk. And I even had a situation where my own mother said this to me. She said to me, it just looked to me like you were drunk. And of course, she had never seen a full crash, because she didn't live with me, right? So she'd never seen me during a full hard crash. She'd only seen in the middle of a crash, because I had a bad one where she had to drive me to the hospital, and the girlfriend helped me get from my place into the car. But my mom wasn't there for that, that happened over the course of about 20 minutes. And that's what happens sometimes during a hard crash is, a lot of the time it can be kind of gradual like what I'm doing here now, but if I push hard enough, it can be just like fast. And anyway, that was her big thing. It's like, you were just drunk. You were just drunk. It's like, you would think that the people at the hospital telling you there's no alcohol there would kind of clue you in, but it doesn't. People are really sticky about that shit. You can explain stuff to people, and it's like, this guy thinks it's drugs. No, you can't tell me. People believe people when they use those words. You can't tell me, because they're telling you something about what's going on up here. They mean what they're saying. You can't convince them, or you can't convince me. They mean it when they say that. And it can make this kind of stuff, this sort of stuff's tough enough in the first place. But anyway, I thought I would kind of show you, because now I'm a little better, so I can kind of do this a little more coherently. So, yeah, it's going to be a long climb out of this, couple of weeks yet, probably, before I start posting any, if I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I can't make any promises because I never know ahead of time. But that's it for now, guys. Hope you guys are having a decent day, and we'll catch you all later. GG's and 7 3s.